Hello, everybody. It's 11:11 here in Colorado Springs, so it's a perfect time to get this thing rolling. Hello, fellow co-conspirators. Welcome to the podcast. We're gonna get today's podcast started in the usual fashion with a little breath work, and thought I'd give you a little background on this technique. It's referred to as alternate nostril breathing, but there's also a Sanskrit term called Nadi Sodhana Pranayama. And Nadi is like channel and flow, and Sodhana is cleansing and purifying. And Pranayama, prana is like life force, and so it's just referring to using the channels that we have to cleanse and purify and bring more life force to our being. So I thought that was cool, and there's lots of benefits to alternate nostril breathing as well. There's research that says your nostrils are actually linked to different hemispheres of your brain. So doing this sort of helps synchronize the hemispheres of your brain. So that's pretty cool. And it's supposed to be really good for calming the parasympathetic nervous system and activating the vagus nerve. So if you're stressed or whatever, it's supposed to help kind of calm you down and center you. So it's a real simple technique. I like to put my fingers sort of on my third eye, and then I use my ring finger on my left nostril and my thumb on my right. And so what we'll do is we'll plug the right nostril and breathe in through the left, and then exhale out of that one, and then switch, and we'll do that. We'll do 3 rounds of that. But ideally, you'd take a little more time and really settle into it. But all right, everyone, settle in, close the eyes, and close that left nostril with your ring finger, and breathe in, and then plug the right and breathe out. And then breathe in again through the left. And then out the right. And we'll repeat that a couple more times. Excellent. Settled in, we're calm, we're collected, we're cool, and we have conspired together. Mr. Dew here said we should be talking about sovereignty today. So I don't know if you had any preliminary thoughts to get the conversation started.
Actually, I did. I'll start with a poem because poetry is my next great frontier, and it's called Realistic Look at Coming Days. We've entered a time of chaos, when there will be great gain and loss, as demons try to show who's boss, and maintain their hold of control, when they have had the ruling role, while true saints they constantly troll, so that even the good folks must be strong. For when treated with blatant wrong, for the end times have lasted long. But things will at last turn around, when Lord starts the devils to pound like waves against a ship run aground. Since we're at the dawn of the new dale, when the plans of God cannot fail, and into paradise will sail, filled with the joy of sacred bliss, when none are betrayed by false kiss, since nothing will mankind now miss.
All right, on theme for sure. Ooh, yeah. It's a topic that we've discussed a few times over the months for sure. And to your poem's point, these are interesting times. I think most people will acknowledge that. I wouldn't consider them ordinary. Not maybe no time is ordinary, but there's something about this time that feels unique.
Well, I don't know if you want to start with the microscopic, the macroscopic, or the universal, the omniversal. But my feeling about what you just said is, the more chaotic times become, the more the more sovereignty is either increased or decreased. And I think that these times are unprecedented. They're truly legendary historical times when a whole it's not just the evolution of the collective mankind. It's like the whole flow of not only the universe but indeed the omniverse is sort of like going through a polar shift, and it's affecting Earth obviously and everything. But everybody's focused on Earth because Earth is like the battleground planet where all these gods have like come to establish their territory, and and so I mean, this is Dale's version of history, but basically, I feel like Yahweh and Allah and Krishna and the whole Hindu pantheon and everything, and then the more like self-reflective and inner Tao or Buddhism of the Eastern mystics, but they all have like a place on Earth, and therefore we're like at a point where you know not only are the gods fighting for their own territory, they're fighting for the souls of every person, and that's why it's absolutely critical. And this is like the thing that's never happened before, is that people are turning their backs on the gods and saying, I'm my own God. Myself is sovereign. And no, I mean, this is something we often talk about external judgment versus internal acceptance. And, there is a need for respect and reverence for the external, but ultimately, I feel, everything's a reflection of the internal, and that's where the sovereignty comes from.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, that's certainly a macrocosmic down to the micro, and certainly from a do perspective, I like that. No, I tend to agree. I guess where I'm at, and that's what we were talking about, is sort of how our individual dream plays into the collective, and really sovereignty comes down to attention, to some degree, right? Where are you placing your attention? Are you constantly, like you said, focusing on the external and the news and social media? Is that where your attention is going? And then do you feel some sort of responsibility or empathy or whatever to do something about what you perceive as happening, or is it more of an internal journey, which I tend to tilt towards, and like you said, the external is a reflection. So when you see chaos in the external, it's an opportunity to look within and see where you're inviting that in, or where you might be paying more attention to the chaos within yourself, right? And to me, it's like getting to the breath and go into that center point. And it's funny because our good friend Gabby has a video out this week about kind of that concept to some extent. And basically, I don't know how to summarize it, but I would summarize it is that it's just, she just suggests to sit with the breath and don't try even do a technique. Just sit with it and pay
Right.
attention to it and put your focus there, and sort of let yourself kind of fall into your internal world and see what's there. Because I think that's part of why that reflection is so chaotic, is because that war that you were referring to is like trying to take us away from our sovereignty, trying to take us away from a feeling of safety and control within ourselves, and that creates fear in a lot of people, and that's the ultimate tool, isn't it, of someone who wants to exert control is fear.
Well, that's what you said about attention is very true, and this brings up 2 points. First off, the point about to what degree do you focus the attention on yourself, and to what degree does that make you ultimately self-centered and egotistical? And that's some that's an that. But I wanted to say before that is that the what was it? What was your second point you just made about
Fear and like this battle
Oh,
for
that's right. This is the first time in recorded history that we know it where the powers that were, as Elizabeth April calls them, but they still are the powers that be. They just are losing their grip and their control. That's what I talked about in my poetry. Satan, if everybody switches to the fifth dimension, then Satan's going to be stuck with his people on the third dimension, and they aren't going anywhere, and they're in hell. So okay, fine. That's a choice they made and everything. But basically, the more people, because this is the first time in recorded history where people have been able to assert their sovereignty against the powers that be, to the degree that the powers that be are really reacting in panic because they know they're losing power.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's getting weird. Like if you do pay attention to the narrative that is out there, um, it does feel like they're flailing around a little bit. Like it and the ability to like still buy into that system and feel like it is valid or that we actually should be giving our power to it or trusting it is starting to feel more and more ridiculous all the time. Like I can't quite comprehend how people, especially the political system, are giving it like power. It feels like pure insanity to do so.
Well, I'll use the example of my sister, and the, this is I mean it's not just like the programming and the training and the professional things that people have gone through and everything that like integrate this into their brain. It's like been so integrated into the DNA over like such a long time. This like belief in like an outer power, then we need to be led, basically since Moses at least, So, but my sister, for example, I mean, I can't talk. I love my sister. We have very good conversations talking about like her life in Montana and my life in New Jersey, and but when Trump came in, I was sort of like, I wasn't even really defending him. I was just saying, and I think he's going to bring a lot of change, and and she interpreted this because of her train. I mean, she graduated law school. She went to University of Arizona, highly educated, highly intelligent, but also highly involved in other people's thoughts, and that's really where the obstacle is. You got to break into your own system of thought and begin thinking for yourself. And she's always saying, think for yourself and everything. And I'm saying, okay, but but and and I won't go into my other issues with my sister, but I'm just talking about like, the mindset. I've given, I talked to her about Christ, and I think she could find a lot of help in Christ because she lost her husband recently, and she's sort of lonely, but she's got a lot of good friends and everything, so she has a very good life and everything. But when it comes to Trump and Musk, forget it. She is like, okay. So, of course, I don't even bring it up with her or anything, but it's just like, and this isn't just my sister. this is my whole graduating class in my upper level boarding school in New Hampshire. This this intellectual and what Gabby would call the mental like focus and attention, which you were talking about, and the mental attention can be very, as Gabby and we all talk about, very divorced from the heart center. And I think that what's happening is that a lot of people are so educated and so and know so much that now that the shift is coming, they aren't prepared because they're so set in their ways that they won't change.
Yeah, yeah, that resonates very deeply. And that it is what it comes down to. Essentially, it is the what is your driving force? Is it your mind or is it your heart? And I can remember a time where Andrew's mind was driving the show for sure. And it was very powerful and very linear, right? There's no outside the box thinking really. It's logic, it's science, it's history, it's past. It's not creative, and that's I think where cannabis kind of came in for me, to help with a shift in understanding that the mind wasn't all there was, and
Right.
and that reality is more dynamic than we think it is. It's not linear. It's not fixed. It shifts. It moves. It grows. It expands as the collective grows, shifts, and expands, and as Earth, the Schumann resonance and those type of vibratory patterns shift. I mean, those are measurable things. And the thing is, the heart doesn't need a measurement. The heart just feels
Right.
what it feels. But tapping into that feeling state, I think, is critical for a shift to begin. And cannabis helped me do that because my feelings weren't so scary when I was high. And I could sit with them longer, and it would narrow the focus a little bit, and some of the noise started to go away. So I don't know. Maybe your sister. I'm assuming your sister has never tried cannabis. Is that true?
No, she actually used to like it, but of course that was back in the '70s. So
Okay.
and since my experiences, my whole family hates marijuana, so it hates THC. So,
Sure. Sure.
uh, but yeah. So, but when I wanted to say it's not as simple as a linear. Everyone is this much. I meant everybody's on a scale or what's that? A spectrum.
Spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's on a spectrum of how much they're controlled by their heart and how much they're controlled by their head. So, the ideal is the yin yang harmony, the 50%, 50%, but that's pretty rare, and, basically you have to be a higher master to do that or something. That's what they say anyway. So, but I feel I've reached like a certain harmony, but then something like some comes up today, and it just like it doesn't throw off my balance. It doesn't throw off my harmony, but it just like shows me action I have to take that I haven't wanted to take.
Okay.
So and that part of self sovereignty is being aware. I meant actually, actually I said, Jesus, tell me what to do in this situation, and then I three accidents happened. Out of nowhere. Accidents never happened to me. So, to me, this was sort of saying Jesus saying, she's an accident waiting to happen, Dale. It's got to end. So, that's how I. But anyway, so back to sovereignty, self awareness, and just being self aware enough to be able to ask the questions and to see, where you really are and how you really feel is something that a lot of people don't do. They don't take the time, or they never had had the training or were taught how to do it. I mean, frankly, for the past 50 years, I basically never meditated. I'm not a meditator, but I do have my times of silence and reflection, and I guess that's called mindfulness or whatever. But I've never like actively like meditated or even like tried to lucid dream. Or I mean, I have had lucid dreams, but I haven't tried it. So a lot of these like metaphysical practices that these people talk about, I've never I've never experienced, but I also know that I've gained a wisdom through my experiences to be able to talk intelligently about life.
Yeah, I think there's two things there that I keyed off of. One is the term mindfulness. I don't particularly care for that term because it almost sounds like you're just in your mind, and that's completely not the point. It's awareness. It's sitting in the seat of the observer. That's what I would call it.
Right.
And when you're sitting in the seat of the observer and something comes up within you, or you're not there and you feel something come up, a trigger, or you're upset about something, and whatever happens, um, can you step back sort of within yourself and observe that thing that came up from this sort of neutral third person
Right.
perspective, and if you can, then you're not identified with what's happening, and there's some separation, some space, and so meditation is a practice to be able to sit in that seat, but there are other ways to do it, and simply just going through life in a way that allows you to sort of see what's coming up within you. And I would think from your perspective, having this journey with schizophrenia, like you've certainly, now that you're in a different place than you were maybe, I don't know, in the past, would you say that you are able to sort of observe those things as they come up in your current state?
Well, just to give the example I just gave about this morning, when the accidents happen, I can get upset. I mean, I said the F word one time, but it's sort of like, what's going on? And then I think back, well, 5 minutes ago, I asked Jesus to guide me. So, it's sort of like I didn't get upset or anything. I just cleaned up the mess and got on the podcast. So it's I mean, when when you're in a situation where if you get angry, you're going to be sent away for 5 years, you learn how to control things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to me, like that's essentially what the skill set is, and and identification is the biggest part of that, right? That is the tool that the powers that were use is identification, because as soon as I'm identified with something, if something happens to that thing, or my team gets attacked, or whatever I'm identifying with, now I take it personally, and all these emotions come up, and my power's gone, right? I've given it away, and I explain that to people a lot. I'm like, when you're attending to something, you're watching the news, you're scrolling your social media feed, whatever it is you're doing, I don't know. How can you take a pause and feel how you're feeling in that when you're using your attention in that way? And a lot of times, I mean, someone who's practiced, right? I'll see a story about Trump or Elon or something, and I'll get sucked into the drama of it all because it's all bullshit. Like none of it really matters, and they're mostly acting to begin with. Like they want to get us riled up. That's how I feel, because the
Right,
attention is part of what they feed on. I mean, especially a person like Donald Trump. I mean, you don't think he feeds on attention? Give me a break. he,
right,
I heard an interview with Megyn Kelly, and they were having a little spat, and he had her up to like Trump Tower, and he's like, at the end of the meeting, he's like, it's not always good if they aren't talking about us, and that highlights it perfectly, right? Who
Right.
Let's give them something to talk about, and it'll distract them from what is really true. And I think that's where sovereignty really comes into play is can you be aware of where you're allowing your attention to go, and therefore, and then the next step is the reaction, what is coming up when you attend to that. And that's a powerful awareness that I think can help guide us in these times.
Well, I think that's a extremely good point, and that's how the powers that be have done it for 5,000 years or 6,000 years. Circus and bread. They said in Roman times. Distract the people. I mean, how many people, are more interested in how many home if if Aaron Judge hit a home run today, then the possibility of of mobilizing U.S. troops to go to the Middle East. I mean, it's probably about 50-50 at least, yeah, and I'm being generous. But that's the whole. When we're talking about sovereignty and you're talking about attention, the attention is where the intention is, and if your attention is on the distractions, then you'll never have the opportunity to build an intention to make yourself better.
Yeah. Yes. No, that's beautiful. I mean, I really do think it is critical that people who are awakening to sort of the ridiculousness of it all and how these systems are structured in ways that are not here to serve us, to to put some like dedication into it. It does require some vigilance, I would say, to you know notice what is coming up within you. That's the point, right? Is like
Right.
I want to protect sort of my energy and where it's going, and I want it to go for things I support, right? And that's part
Right.
of why we're here talking. Is like we're here to conspire on our vision for something different, something better, something more
Right.
connected, and encouraging others to do something similar, or just to know that there's other people out there on that quest to have a greater level of personal sovereignty and to feel more power over your own life. Like it's your life. It's not their
And
life.
you always have a choice, no matter whether you think you do or not.
Absolutely.
And usually more than one.
Well, and that's the thing. They give you the red blue choice, but it's not an actual choice. And so we got to think way beyond that paradigm, in my
I got the
opinion.
orange pill for 4 years. I got the orange pill. My original pill was green. No, first it was red, then it was green, then it was orange, and now it's back to red.
Okay. Keeping it moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to take the same pill every day. You can mix it up. Part of breaking that cycle, breaking that loop is just like not looping the same day every day. Like, it's good to have a certain amount of routine, but like make a shift here, there, the other, and that will kind of help loosen things up a little bit.
Right, right.
Allow for some neuroplasticity, as they say, which I think is pretty key to this whole thing. Is like how, I describe it as like cross country skiing, and there's little grooves that people go down, especially in the straight section, right? Well, if you're in those grooves, you're not there. You're in the track. You're looping. You're doing the same thing, and so a fresh snow comes and now the tracks are gone and all of a sudden you can go wherever you want, and
Yeah,
that's
right,
that's freedom to me. that's
right,
that's
right.
sovereignty is freedom. And I don't know, I can't quite relate to people who don't want that, don't want more of it. But you're right, the programming of the mind, it does keep you kind of stuck in this ick.
Well, it's like I say in my business, recovery is always an option, but in order for it to be an option, you have to want it. So the first thing is just to make wake people up to see that something's wrong, and then to try to show them a little bit what's wrong, and then the next step is to make them want to change what's wrong, and that's when change really begins as more people adopt it.
Agreed. No, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, and so desire is key to all of this. Um, and I don't know, it feels like we're very pain is the stimuli, it's the frog in the pot scenario, right?
Right, right.
Like the temperature is increasing. Do you feel it? Do you want to feel it? And once you feel it, are you gonna hop out of the pot? Because like this pot is lame.
Right.
Like we are intelligent and inherently powerful creatures when we come from the heart, when we come from love. That is what I believe, and
Right.
that field, our our field that we emanate, the vibration, the signal that we're sending out, becomes infinitely more powerful when it's coherent, when you're in alignment, when your thoughts and your feelings and your actions and your words are all the same. There's no deviation. You're not putting on a mask. You're not
Right.
putting on a show for people. That's an incoherent feel, and it is weak. So the strength comes from that authentic expression where you are grounded into. You have to know yourself. Like that's I think what we're talking about is how
Right.
many people have taken the time to go in there and figure out what's in there, and it's a pretty critical step along the journey.
Well, so, uh, I came up with a definition of psychosis on a podcast I was doing a couple of days ago, and so the definition is, what is psychosis? Psychosis is playing in the universe beyond the matrix. And then, but how do you get psychosis? You refuse to play with your shadows.
Interesting. So, why do you say that?
Because the shadows are what bring on the madness. So
Okay.
if you don't acknowledge the shadows in yourself, the wounds, the program, the negative programming, the stimuli, the negative stimuli, and everything, then your shadows just keep getting bigger and bigger until they overwhelm your healthy self. And in my own case, after 50 years of psychoanalysis of my I'm God statement, it's where like I had like such a great fear of loneliness and being alone, and also impotence and powerlessness and everything, lack of love. I had a lot of issues, and it's taken me a long time to figure them all out, but I do, and it's an ongoing process. But that's why I say that the way to get to psychosis is to not. You don't even have to fight your shadows. You just have to acknowledge them.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, acknowledgement comes from that perspective that we're talking about. Is you're not no longer identified with that thing, the shadow. It's but you acknowledge that it's there and that it needs maybe some care or just to be
Right.
sat with, right? To acknowledgement. I think that really is probably the key word there is like because to ignore it or stuff it down or pretend like it doesn't exist is what you're talking about, right? And
Right.
yeah, it's no, that's the dance for sure. That's the dance of like spiritual awakening is allowing those things to come, and when you're in that surrendered state, then you don't have to push it away. You don't have to pretend like it doesn't exist. You can allow it and send love to it, or whatever your process
Right.
is.
Well, people talk about. I'm sorry. Uh, People talk about inner child healing all the time. But ultimately, it's all wounds. I mean, the people say inner child just because that's so like all enveloping. All the things that happened to you before you were like 14 or something. But ultimately, they might all have origins in childhood wounding, but the wounds themselves are very different, and so. Um, I say I suffer from XCPTSD. I don't consider myself a schizophrenic anymore. I consider myself XCPTSD, and the only requirement for that is you have to have been in the mental health system at least 30 years.
Yes, the system that was designed to help you
Yeah.
has created severe sort of trauma, and yeah, and that sense of unsafety, right? And I feel that. I mean, that is the core wound for most people. Let's be honest. It didn't come from that source, and it's not maybe extremely complex, but if you don't feel safe in yourself, you don't feel safe with yourself, you don't feel safe in the world, then nothing else is going to flow quite right. And
Right.
that's part of where we're doing that breath work is to send a signal of safety to the nervous system, to the vagus nerve, because that's your ceiling about of how you can of consciousness is what your nervous system will allow, and that's why we call it being in your comfort zone or getting out of your
Right.
comfort
Right.
zone, right? It's learning to train the nervous system to feel okay when you're in an expansion mode, when you're outside of what you normally do, and that's the practice to me is just pushing that edge just a little bit further and further of what you can do. And for me, this is a step along that journey, right? The podcast is that
Right.
one little
Right.
next step out of the comfort zone. I hope my computer isn't glitching too hard. It's froze a couple times
It's
now.
glitching a little bit. Um, Shall we close it down? Is your computer going to hold up or what?
Well, I mean, I don't think we need
Uh,
to close it
so
down,
so
but
I,
maybe. But
so what were you just saying? Because there was something I wanted to add about
oh, I was talking about sending you signals of safety to your nervous system,
Oh,
and
that's right. I know why I want. So, for those of us who aren't in the know, what exactly is the vagus nerve?
okay, it's like a nerve that runs from your head down to your heart, and I mean, I'm not the expert, but it's pretty key to regulating your whole body and your nervous system, and it's sensitive to vibration, and so using your voice, humming, there's lots of ways to stimulate it, but like that little vibration on your chest. That's why they do the ohm is like is like it's different
Right, right,
vibrations within your body that sort of stimulate that nerve, and it's pretty critical to being in that sort of optimum state where you can see things clearly and you're not like off balance or off center.
right.
Is that
And where is it tied? Is it tied to the pineal gland?
not that I'm aware of, but like it's all tied together, right? I mean, at the end of the
But
day.
I think it's all in the same like area as the brain, now, right? The
That's a
pineal and the
good
vagus.
question, Dale. I'm not the neuroscience expert, but I mean, it certainly activating your pineal gland is another like way to go down that path, right? Because it's allowing more information to come in and to not come in from like reading or normal intake to maybe it's like your antenna, uh,
Right, right.
and and I don't know anything. I think of spirituality in two ways. There's like the spiritual sort of meditative, heart thing, and then there's just tuning the device, the body, right? And
Right.
that's diet, exercise, and your practice, whatever that might be. And even if it's simple as like saying a quick prayer when you wake up or whatever it is, right? Like having something that draws your attention away from the concerns of the world or your daily schedule or your
Right.
shopping list or whatever it is, right? Whatever brings you to now in the now moment. And tuning the device is like pretty understanding like sunlight and getting some sunlight in your eyes in the morning and helping with circadian rhythm. Like there's lots of tools in the tool chest uh, to help that, but the ohm is a good one for the vagus nerve, and the alternate nostril breathing was
Right. Right.
highlighted. So these are all techniques to help get you closer to what is true for you and not be so caught up.
Right. Get closer to Gus, God, universe, source.
Exactly. Well, there is this idea that there's a soul blueprint that we come into this world with, right?
Right.
And God is like a way to sort of connecting with God is a way to sort of bring that in to understand it better. So yeah, I mean, it's all there. It's all connected, and it's all a practice that personally, I've put a lot of time and intention in developing over the last few years, and have had some great teachers like Gabby, for example. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think if we're gonna lead, maybe some closing thoughts around sovereignty. I hope people kind of understand where we're going with this, and how it is about your power. I mean, to to believe that you are powerful, that you're not just some seed floating in the wind that can be battered by all these external forces, that there's an anchor, there's a foundation. I think that's what it is, right? is
Right.
is when you feel grounded in who you are as a person, and you're not identified with all these externalities that don't actually really matter. You can't be so easily swayed or put off balance or distracted, and that's, to me, that's what sovereignty is.
Well, I think at some point you start speaking the truth, and your truth becomes a universal truth.
Yeah, truth. Well, that is, speaking truth is actually, I mean, that's throat chakra, right?
Right, right,
And when you speak it, you're actually doing a few things. You're you're communicating what you believe to someone else, and then you're receiving a reflection back, typically, if they got what the hell you were saying, or if they agree. And they don't have to agree, but you're formulating the idea. It's like, I think about like a stand-up comedy routine, right? People go up on stage, they try some new material, and sometimes it bombs. But that is an opportunity to refine the material, to refine the message, to dig
right.
deeper into what your truth is, what is true for you. But the communication is a huge part of that puzzle. I believe, and it's so quieted. How many people say what is really true? It came. I got a lot of that skill from hanging out with engineers, because I found engineers, they weren't reading between the lines. They were just hearing the words that were coming out of my mouth, and so I
Right,
had to say the word that was actually the most accurate in order to get my message to them. And why not do that all the time? Why not just say the most accurate words possible? So sarcasm, all that crap, I don't know. I don't really get into that very
right.
often, because it just, eh, I'd rather just say what's true.
Well, I can empathize completely with that, having been a poet for since '85. I mean, sometimes you just come to a point in a poem and you say, no, that's not the right word. What is the right word that I want to hear? And when you find it, it's like, Eureka! So, uh, shall we close out with a poem? How does that sound?
That sounds amazing.
Okay, this is called A Random Reflection on Saturdays. So, this is what a timeless. The dales are merging. Seconds are decades and hours centuries. Flashing before us like lightning, illuminating the shadow of the power of desire, while full moon lunacy entraps many on a hamster wheel of starvation for the nutrition we all crave from source, in order to feel our course, to fulfill our course of light and dark through which we grope, with hands on the awesome mass of awareness into the concupiscence of consciousness, while we breathe like the filtered oxygen of the hospital and casino, raising our hopes for a payday of unprecedented wealth, giving the ability to buy the world like it was a penny candy, as we begin to understand our smallness.
Dude, I got chills. Beautiful way to close. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're
Okay,
sending love
and
to all of you.
Andrew, have a great and we'll see. We'll just so people know, we're releasing on Monday. No, Tuesday. What is it? Tuesday and Friday? No, what was Thursday and Monday we're releasing. That's right.
Yeah.
Thursday and Monday we're releasing new episodes, and we're filming on other days. But so subscribe, like, and follow us, and have a great day. Have a great weekend, Andrew. Thank you very much for your deep thoughts and conversation, and have a great day, everybody, and good night.